Hi all, welcome to the second read of Great Expectations. Today we are going to go ahead with chapter 2. Let's get started. My sister, Mrs. Joe Gargery, was more than 20 years older than I and had established a great reputation with herself and the neighbors because she had brought me up by hand. Having at that time to find out for myself what the expression meant, and knowing her to have a hard and heavy hand, and to be much in the habit of laying it upon her husband as well as upon me, I suppose that Joe Gargery and I were both brought up by hand. She was not a good looking woman, my sister, and I had a general impression that she must have made Joe Gargery marry her by hand. Joe was a fair man, with curls of flaxen hair on each side of his smooth face, and with eyes of such a very undecided blue that they may seem to have somehow got mixed with his own whites. He was a mild, good-natured, sweet-tempered, easy-going, foolish dear fellow, a sort of Hercules in strength and also in weakness. My sister, Mrs. Joe, with black hair and eyes, had such a prevailing redness of skin that I sometimes used to wonder whether it was possible she washed herself with a nutmeg grater instead of soap. She was tall and bony, and almost always wore a coarse apron fastened over her figure behind with two loops, and having a square impregnable bib in front that was stuck full of pins and needles. She made it a powerful merit in herself and a strong reproach against Joe that she wore this apron so much, though I really see no reason why she should have worn it all day, or why, if she did wear it at all, she should have taken it off every day of her life. Joe's forge adjoined our house, which was a wooden house, as many of the dwellings in our country were, most of them at that time. When I ran home from the churchyard, the forge was shut up, and Joe was sitting alone in the kitchen. Joe and I being fellow sufferers, and having confidences as such, Joe imparted a confidence to me the moment I raised the latch of the door and peeped in at him opposite to it, sitting in the chimney corner. Mrs. Joe has been out a dozen times looking for you, Pip, and she's out now, making it a baker's dozen. Is she? Yes, Pip, said Joe. And what's worse, she's got Tickler with her. At this dismal indulgence, I twisted the only button on my waistcoat round and looked in great depression at the fire. Tickler was a wax-ended piece of cane, worn smooth by collision with my tickled frame. She sat down, said Joe, and she got up and she made a grab at Tickler and she rampaged out. That's what she did, said Joe, slowly clearing the fire between the lower bars with the poker and looking at it. She rampaged out, Pip. Has she gone too long, Joe? I always treated him as a larger species of child and no more than my equal. Well, said Joe, glancing up at the Dutch clock, she's been on the rampage this last spell about 5 minutes. Pip, she's coming. Get behind the door, old chap, and have the jackdaw betwixt you. I took the advice. My sister, Mrs. Joe, throwing the door wide open and finding an obstruction behind it, immediately divided the cause and applied Tickler to its further investigation. She concluded by throwing me. I often served as a connubial missile at Joe, who, glad to get hold of me on my terms, passed me on into the chimney and quietly fenced me up there with his great leg. Where have been you, you young monkey? Said Mrs. Joe, stamping her foot. Tell me directly what you have been doing to wear me away with fret and fright and worried, or I would have you out of that corner if you was 50 pips and he was 500 Gargeries. I have only been to the churchyard, said I, from my stool crying and rubbing myself. Churchyard? Repeated my sister. If it weren't for me, you had been to the churchyard long ago and stayed there. Who brought you up by hand? You did, said I. And why did I do it? I should like to know, exclaimed my sister. I whimpered. I do not know. I don't, said my sister. I would never do it again. I know that. I may truly say I have never had this apron of mine off since born you were. It's bad enough to be a blacksmith's wife, and him a gargary, without being your mother. My thoughts strayed from that question as I looked disconsolately at the fire. For the fugitive out on the marshes with the iron leg, the mysterious man, the file, the food, and the dreadful pledge I was under to commit a larceny on those sheltering premises, rose before me in the avenging coals. Ha! Said Mrs. Joe, restoring Tickler to his station. Churchyard, indeed. You may well say churchyard, you too. One of us, Pat and I, had not said it at all. You'll drive me to the churchyard betwixt you one of these days, and oh, a precious spare you would be without me. As she applied herself to set the tea things, Joe peeped down at me over his leg, as if he were mentally casting me and himself up, and calculating what kind of pair we practically should make under the grievous circumstances foreshadowed. After that, he sat feeling his right side flaxen curls and whiskers, and following Mrs. Joe about with his blue eyes, as his manner always was at squally times. This was all. We are still halfway through chapter 2, and we'll see you on day 3.